when I was under pressure and was legitimately afraid for my life. To get a phone call from George or Tom just to see how you're doing was very reassuring to me. I've been under a lot of pressure, and I have heart trouble, and I've had medical problems too, because this particular lifestyle that I have lived for the past 48 years has taken its toll on me. You cannot, the universe is very interesting the way it works. The way, and I'm using this as a metaphor, but the way God works, if you want to do something and it's very important to you, if you go out and put your whole self into whatever it is you want to do, you very well might be able to accomplish it. But if you do accomplish your goal, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay a price. For me, I lost my wife. I lost my family. I've had everything I own in this world stolen from me 3 times. My offices were burglarized, stolen, and took everything I own and and of course then I get phone calls from FBI, phone calls from federal agents warning me to keep your mouth shut. And that kind of stuff is not the kind of thing I want to live with, because today in America with 9/11 happening and the overthrow of the United States of America with a coup d'etat, which is what has happened. America is no longer the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave. We're now slaves under a totalitarian fascist regime. And the people all around the world know that the great Republic of America is now on its knees and is in the process of being destroyed. And the reason why is because you cannot have a new world order under fascist world domination when the biggest guy on the block is still the boss in his own home. So in order to destroy the United States, you have to destroy the people, its institutions, and this is what we have now come to finally realize in America, that America is on its last and final days. And very soon you're going to see, I believe you're going to see the full ramifications of the people who are behind world government and what they're going to do to America. They have something planned for us that you don't want to know. They've got concentration camps already set up for Americans. They have an agenda. And part of what I wanted to talk about tonight is dealing with that. I have 2 presentations to do tonight if we have time. One is kind of on the light side, dealing with religion, because I believe that religion is at the bottom of all of the world's problems, because the people who are in power have given us our governments, our legislatures, our laws, our institutions of higher learning. They've also given us our governmental systems, and they've given us all our religions. Religions come from the same people who have given you your banking system, your governmental systems, so that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are nothing more than Masonic concoctions to entertain the masses, to entertain the people and keep them occupied. And this is, of course, what George Carlin was talking about when he said it's a big club and you ain't in it. Because the religions of this world are designed purposely to distract your mind and to give you something to hope for. While the people who came up with these ideas in England know what they're doing. They are subverting the human race. What we're seeing today is the human family on the earth is being mutated. The reason why we have major wars in the world, all kinds of people have all kinds of ideas about why we have different wars and what all of these wars are all about. Wars are for one reason only, and that is to guide the human race. To guide the human race into a particular realm of thinking. Because if you have peace around the earth, everybody would get together and do things together But that's not what the masters who own us, who think that they own us, want. So they create wars, which then feeds violence, it feeds pornography, it feeds all kinds of debasement in the human being, and therefore they're dropping down and mutating the human family and rebuilding us through video games and through television, propaganda, etc. So it's a very, very serious thing which is now facing the earth. And most of the people in the world today have no idea in the world what's going on and how this stuff really works. I was fascinated to learn how government works. One of the nice things about my life is that I've been able to meet a lot of very interesting people. And when I discovered how government really works, I was amazed at how commerce, government, religion, all work together, and everything is well planned out. And so until and unless the people of America and the people of the world awaken to how this stuff really works, we are a doomed species. Because we're being fed propaganda and lies and mistruths, and it's very frightening because I know where we're being led. So I wanted to talk tonight about religion and government. And Moses was the great lawgiver, we're told. When you find out that, and it won't take very long if you start doing some research on your own, you'll find out that Christianity and Judaism and Islam, the three of those three religions are referred to as the people of the book, because all three rely on a book for their religious teachings. The Quran, the Bible, and the New Testament. I believe the New Testament is a metaphor, and I'm going to give some lectures on that later. But Judaism today is actually Hinduism. It's connected through the ancient Hindus, many of their teachings called Brahmanism. And you put an A in front of Brahma, it becomes Abraham or Abraham. And so this whole religious thing about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all of this stuff is Hinduism. And when you find out how the old ancient Phoenician Canaanites were the bankers, the politicians in the Middle East, they picked up on the old Hindu stuff and a lot of the teachings coming out of Egypt and fashioned a new religion called Judaism. And out of Judaism comes Christianity. So much of Christianity and Judaism is based on the Old Testament and Moses in particular. Moses and Abraham were two very big names in the old Jewish tradition. And so when you begin to look at the history of the scriptures and the history of the Old and New Testament, you will begin to see for the first time that the stories in the Old Testament have been misrepresented. And two of the most famous archaeologists in all of Israel today, the top two archaeologists in Israel today, have written a book called Unearthing the Bible. And in it, they said that none of the stories in the Old Testament are actual historical facts. And that, in fact, in point of fact, there was no ancient Israel. There was no ancient Israel. So all of this talk about the ancient people of Israel, there was no ancient Israel. It didn't exist. There were Canaanites. And in the Bible, we hear about the Canaanites, but the Canaanites were the people that we today call the Hebrew people. So Canaanite religion is today referred to as Judaism. Okay, Moses is the basis for the law. And in America, that's what we are, we've been told so often that America is a land of laws. We are a nation ruled by law. Well, in point of fact, that's not true. America is not a nation of laws. America is probably the most lawless nation on the earth. America's laws are decided each day by those who are in power, and whatever they say the law is today, that's what the law is. And if they say it's different tomorrow, that's what the law is. So there is no law in America. America is a lawless nation. And we are heading into a lawless time in the world where only violence and revolution and bloodshed is going to settle anything, because there are no laws. But I think it's interesting for both Jews, Christians, and Islam to realize something about Moses and the law. So, he's the lawgiver. And we're told that he was given the law from God. He comes down from the mountain. Incidentally, Moses throws the law down and breaks it, so he was the first lawbreaker. And the Ten Commandments that we supposedly were on those tablets, the Ten Commandments were copied from something in Egypt called the 12 Negative Confessions. Called 12 Negative Confessions. You can look it up in any encyclopedia on Egyptology, on Egypt, and you will see that the 12 Negative Confessions were transposed and became known as the Ten Commandments. So the very Ten Commandments were Egyptian. That's just some scriptures showing the connection between the ancient book of the dead of Egypt and the Exodus. And here's Moses with the Ten Commandments. Moses the lawgiver. Now, even in the government, even in the U.S. government, there are statues of Moses in the halls of justice, and even in the House of Representatives in America, you have Moses. I think it's interesting that this picture of Moses has the Roman wreath, because America's government is Roman. The three cornerstones, or the three legs on which America exists, is first of all Roman in government, Greek in philosophy, and Jewish in law. So Jewish law with Greek philosophy and Roman governmental system is the way America operates. Rome, Greece, and the Jewish law. But why does Moses have horns? Most people have never noticed that. In almost all the carvings, Moses has horns. Yeah, Moses is pictured with horns because the horns are representing the moon. Moses was the focal figure of an ancient cult of moon worship on the Sinai Peninsula. The horns represent the crescent moon. So when we see the horns are actually the moon in the lower quarter. Here is the moon god. In Sinai, well, I guess I'm going to show that anyway, so I'll wait. You'll see the horns of the moon in Rome. Now, Native American, Indian chiefs wore horns. The Vikings, Native Americans and the Vikings wore horns because the Native Americans always counted their days from sundown to sundown. So you would hear the American Indians talk about many moons have passed. They didn't keep track of the day by the sun because that was Christian, sun worship. So the Native Americans, like the Vikings, were moon worshipers. So they counted their day from sundown to sundown, just as the Jews do today, from sundown to sundown, because that's when the moon comes out. So the horns were the horns of the lunar horns of the moon. And a lot of the old coins and carvings in the ancient world show the hands raised as they were worshiping the moon god. In Egypt, and of course in Islam, Islamic religion is a very interesting combination of moon worship and Saturn worship and Venus worship. Venus is very big in the Islamic religion. Here it is in the Vatican. You'll see the crescent moon. So the moon cult. Oh, and I was just showing that if you go to Google and put in moon god Sin, because the name of the moon god in Arabia his name was called Sin. And so if you look up the word sin or Allah, it will tell you that Allah in Islam is actually the moon god Sin, S-I-N. And Ai in the ancient language was a mountain. So Sin Ai is the god of the moon god, comes up over the mountain. So put it together, it becomes Sinai, Sin Ai. Even in the Catholic Church, they have the crescent moon. Now, the moon god, as I said, was named Sin. And it shows here that this is just from an encyclopedia. Sin, the moon god, was chiefly venerated in pre-Christian civilization in southern Arabia. If Moses climbed Mount Sinai to meet the resident God, then the God he met there would have been the moon god Sin, who had been enthroned on that mountain since the rise of Samaria. Sin gave his name to the whole Sinai Peninsula. So the moon god's name was Sin. And moon worship has been big all over the Middle East. And you'll see moon god virtually everywhere in the Middle East. And then we get to this article points out that the original Yahweh was only another form of this primitive lunar deity of Arabia. So Yahweh of the Hebrew religion was actually Sin Ai. And this is why, even in Israel today, they do not spell synagogue S-Y-N. In Israel, they spell it S-I-N, because synagogue was the house of worship of the god Sin. Synagogue. And here in Israel, you'll see another synagogue and blow it up, and it's S-I-N. So synagogue comes from the early worship of the moon god Sin. Just showing how, in Jewish literature everywhere, it talks about the moon, many moons, the Jewish cycle of the moon. And so the point I'm making here is it's very important to realize that Moses represented a moon cult. And this is just the first part of, and you'll see here on the Sinai Peninsula, Mount Sinai, and it's across from Egypt. And that's where the great mountain range was, in the middle of Sinai. And at night, when the moon would come up in the east, there was a mountain range there. And the moon god's name was Sin, and the mountain was Ai. Put it together, it becomes Mount Sinai. It was called the Mountain of Moses, or the Wilderness of Sin. So, Sinai was the worship of, and I'm just showing, if you go to Google, they've got Moses and moon worship, got thousands and thousands of articles about this subject. So it's up to anybody just to do your own research. Now, Moses was also connected to a volcano cult also. So you got the moon, and now you have volcanoes. Volcano worship was very big in the ancient world. It says volcanoes, like any other impressive or fearful aspect of nature, volcanoes have been the object of worship for human beings from the earliest Stone Age. And yet, original Yahweh seems to have begun as a volcano god also. Mount Sinai, where Moses encountered him, was the seat of the Midianite god who had formerly dwelt in a volcano. So this is why in all the drawings and pictures in the Jewish religion, you will always see Moses encountering Yahweh at the volcano. Because the ancient Canaanites, Phoenicians and Canaanites, the people of the Middle East, also worshiped the god of the volcano. Even books put out on the subject of Mount Sinai show it in burning in flames, mountain of fire.
As you turn, it keeps coming in and out. I don't know if that'll help. Let's see.
We'll try it. Anyway, and so here we have Moses. Now, these pictures are taken from Jewish publications for children in the synagogue. You'll see Moses here. Does that look like a volcano to you? Yep. Yeah. Here's another one, Mount Sinai. Jehovah performed signs for the Israelites. That looks like a volcano. There's the children of Israel. That's another thing that's always interested me. How in Israel we have the children of Israel, but you have kids, which are baby goats. Here's another picture of the volcano with the Israelites. So, and you know, it's everywhere. All you have to do is look at any of the publications of the Jewish religion and you will see volcanoes, moon worship. Here's one Israelite telling the other one, no, that's a volcano, airhead. See? Yeah. Here's Moses up in the volcano. Here it says, one day the mountain rumbled and it spewed out fire and smoke. The mountain was engulfed in dense cloud. God called out of the cloud. There's the Israelites running from Mount Sinai. Looks like a volcano. And here's a mountain named Sinai, and does that look like a volcano? Now here in the Encyclopedia Judicum, there was a page showing some of the symbols for the different feast days. And the feast day at the bottom was the feast of the giving of the law. This is from the Encyclopedia Judicum. Here's the feast day of the giving of the law. Does that look like a volcano to you? Yeah. Because the Jews were worshipers of a volcano god, worshipers of a moon god. They were worshipers of the planet Saturn. Saturn was called Lord of the Rings because Saturn was God of the Rings. And they're still making movies in Hollywood today, Lord of the Rings. And most people going to movies have no idea in the world that Lord of the Rings is the planet Saturn, and Saturn was the god of the Hebrews, or another name for Saturn was Yahweh. Yahweh, or Yahweh, Jehovah, Saturn, Lord of the Rings. This is why women were told to listen to their god, so they would wear an ear ring. Men were to get married before their god, so they wear a wedding ring, because the rings represent the planet Saturn. We can get into all of that when I get into courts and government later. So there it is, the feast of the giving of the law to Moses, a volcano. The word volcano comes from the Latin volcano god Vulcan, or Vulcanus, derived from the old Cretan deity Vulcanus. My dear friend here, Abin Ray, was going to do the reading, but as long as I feel, you know, as long as I got the energy, I'll do it then. So here's Vulcanus. The word volcano comes from the Latin volcano god Vulcan. There's Vulcan, beautiful picture. Prometheus was a volcano god whose worshippers took him to Greece. Yahweh was a volcano god whose worshippers took him to Judah. So tribes living on the slopes or the fallout area of an active volcano promoted their smoking home to the status of tribal goddess, regularly captured enemies and threw them into the volcano. Yahweh, whose worshippers were the Jews, Vulcan, later, when the Jews became patriarchal, the Mount Yahweh, which was female, became Mount Yahweh, dropping the feminine ending. So the original Yahweh seems to have begun as a volcano god on Sinai. So here's God. You'll see he's raised on the mountain. This is God chiseling the law of Moses. And you'll see the mountains on fire. You'll see the lightning behind God, which is the same lightning and fire of Vulcanus. He was also identified with the local moon god Sin, after whom the mountain was named. The appearance of Yahweh as a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night certainly suggests a volcano spirit. And in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, it says, "Then the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud and led them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light to go by." So he took not away the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. So we're told in the old Hebrew scriptures that God appeared to the old ancient Israelites as a pillar of fire at night and a pillar of cloud by day, so that they would know Jehovah that was there with them. Well, that's what you get with a volcano, is a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. So these are just quotes from reference works, encyclopedias about, and I won't, since we have so much more I got to cram in there, we won't go through all these scriptures. But the bottom line is that there's just an awful lot of documentation, books that you can go to check all of this out. It's everywhere. But most people don't do this kind of tedious research, spending months and months in UCLA libraries and USC and Berkeley and, for weeks on end, day in and day out, for 48 years. Most people, got more important things to do.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jordan.
So, yeah, I would spend days and days and days, sometimes weeks on end, just on one subject at UCLA. And, they have like a 7-story library above ground and 3 stories below. I'd spend weeks and weeks just photocopying documents, talking to rabbis. They used to go down to the Simon Wiesenthal Center for Holocaust Studies and sit there for hours and talk with the rabbis. And one of my dearest friends was Rabbi Marvin Antelman from Newton, Massachusetts. Rabbi Martin Antelman was a very, very kind and loving man. He was a very dear man, and a very dear friend. And at the time, he was a president of the something called the American Rabbinical Association. So he was a very highly placed rabbi. And this is back in the early 60s. And Rabbi Antelman and I used to sit and talk about religion, philosophy, governments, war, and the whole state, what we call Israel. You'd be surprised at the stuff that the rabbis actually know. They're not telling you. I asked Rabbi Antelman one time, I said, Rabbi, tell me the truth. Was there, in point of fact, Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, or Moses, or King David, or any of those people, did those people actually really exist? And his response was something to the order of, look at, everybody has a religion. The Catholics got a religion, Muslims got a religion, Buddhists got a religion. We got to have something too, so we got a religion. And so I said, yeah, but were these people real? And so he said, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is actually Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. From Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, you got Osiris, Isis, Horus, or Father, Son, Holy Ghost. There was always must be a triune God. It's always three gods in one. So therefore, the Jews can't have anything to do with Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, so they have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which gives us Judaism. No, there's just 3 names of 3 divine principles. So the whole thing is based on the triune gods. But here in the scriptures in Job 36 in the Old Testament, it says, the noise thereof showeth concerning it. The cattle are concerned, the vapor, the noise, therefore telling concern the storm that is to come. These are just scriptures talking about like down here on the bottom on Job 37:2 says, hear attentively the noise of his voice and the sound that goes out of his mouth. We come to find out that he direct it under the whole heavens and his lightning to the ends of the earth. And after it, the voice roared, he thundered with his voice of his excellency. So even in the Old Testament, it's talking about God thundering with his lightning and his thunder. And God, on the bottom of here, on page 960, it talks, in the scripture says, God thunders marvelously with his voice. So we're talking about a God of thunder, the God of the volcano. And so, here's another one. In Job 38, talks about the storm, the clouds, God's tent gathers as the thunder, the voice of Yahweh roars. They descend and God shoots the arrows of his lightning. So the storm, the clouds, and God's tent gathers as the thunder, which is the voice of Yahweh. So you got a cult that's hearing thunder, and that's God speaking. And of course, if you look up the word God in a Latin dictionary, look up the word God in Latin, it's Deus, D-E-U-S, I think it's spelled D-E-U-S, Deus. And Deus, it will tell you in the Latin dictionary, comes directly from the word Zeus in Greek. So when you hear Christians or Jews talking about God, the word in Latin is Deus or Zeus. Zeus was the god of lightning and thunder. So when you hear the Christians talking about God, just know that what you're talking about, let's go back to the Catholic Church, go back to Rome, and go back to the word in Latin for God, which is Deus, which comes directly from Zeus, the god of lightning and thunder. I don't want to tell Christians that too much, and this is why I don't talk about this kind of thing on George Norrie's show, because people are not ready for the truth. I'll give you an interesting piece of information. Oh, thank you. I'll give you an interesting piece of information. I've learned this the hard way, but people will always support what they want to hear. They will not support what they don't want to hear. So if you like country western music, you're not going to pay $40 for a rap concert, right? So people will always support financially and every other way what they want to hear. They will not support what they don't want to hear. And the one thing around the world, generally speaking, that people do not want to hear is the truth. That's the one thing they don't want to hear. They would much rather hear goofballs on television, like on TBN, dancing around with their little effeminate haircuts and their diamond rings, falling on the stage, spitting on each other, falling back on the stage, and doing all of these silly things that are a mockery to the human race. But people will pay big money because it makes them feel good. Because the Lord, which is spelled L-A-R-D in the English dictionary, look up the word L-O-R-D in the Oxford Dictionary of the English language. It's a huge voluminous set of books called the Oxford Dictionary of the English language. It's an incredible set to have. And it's every word that's ever been used in English and where that word comes from. And it's got like a page or two on every single word, where it came from, what it meant, how it's evolved over the centuries. And in the Oxford Dictionary of the English language, it will tell you that, all of these things I've been telling you. Zeus is God, and Deus is Zeus. God, I'm trying to think, there's some other really interesting stuff there, especially on Saturn. Go to the Oxford Dictionary, look up Saturn. It will give you all the information on how Saturn was the basis for Judaism after it took from everything it could from India, from the Hindus. Then they began to bring in Saturn worship and then the moon worship of sin, which gives us cyanide. Incredible stuff. Oh, here it is. God in the English. Translation is the Latin word Deus. The spelling Zeus. But Christians, I have found, want to, as I said, people generally speaking don't want to hear the truth. They would much rather pay a lot of money to hear what they want to hear. And I have always felt that the times we're living in is so critical and so frightening that I would think people would want to know the real truth about what's going on. Who's really running this government? Who's really running world governments? And where's the whole human race going? Where are we all going? We're being led somewhere, and we haven't even the faintest idea what the words mean, what the symbols mean. We're just trusting in our leaders, and the leaders are not leaders, they're misleaders. So there's the volcano cult with the lightning and the thunder. The scripture even says, in the Bible it says, and after it the voice roared, his thunder with his voice. So much for Moses and the volcano. So now we know Moses was connected to the moon worship in Sinai. He was also connected to the volcano worship. And one more point about Moses and Vulcan, the volcano god. Vulcan, the volcano god, Mr. Spock was a Vulcan, right? And the reason why that hand signal, that hand sign, is Hindu. It goes back to an ancient concept in the ancient Hindu religion. Now, in the Bible, a lot of books on the Bible will show you that hand sign is actually called the benediction symbol. Rabbis, when blessing the congregation, the Pope does the sign of the cross when he's blessing. But in the Hebrew synagogues, the rabbi will bless the congregation with the blessing. It's called the benediction symbol. He blesses the congregation. Here you will see the Pentateuch crown with the hands raised in a priestly blessing. Here, indeed, the Lord is high, yet he looks upon the lowly. You know, and that's another point I'm going to make here in a few minutes about why they call God the Most High and why the Lord is the Most High. There's a reason why. Here in the synagogue in downtown Los Angeles, you will see the rabbi giving the benediction symbol. So you'll find it everywhere. Here is a rabbi blessing the congregation. So this is a benediction symbol of Vulcan, the volcano god. But where does this hand sign come from? It goes back to the goat god, the split hoof of a goat. So now we get into the old ancient goat god worship. Baphomet of the Freemasons call it Baphomet, but it's the worship of the goat. And then, of course, once you get into the deepness of the deep theology of Hinduism, which I've been shown some really interesting material on that too. I'm going to put it on my website soon, showing you how the Hindus use the symbol of the goat's hoof. And so when you see the rabbis giving the rabbinical blessing, just remember it's connected to the goat god. Goat worship. Incidentally, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's very important. The Star of David, the Star of David is a 6-pointed hexagram. And the hexagram was a symbol for, if you go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, Encyclopedia Americana, any great reference works of encyclopedias, and look up Star of David, it will tell you Star of David is actually a hexagram, which was the original astronomical symbol for the planet Saturn. Saturn was always pictured in the ancient astronomical text during the Middle Ages and the medieval times as a Star of David, 6-pointed star, 2 triangles interposed. The Babylonians would draw a triangle on the ground and then draw an opposing triangle, making the 6-pointed star or hexagram, then draw a circle around that hexagram and stand inside of it. Now you're inside the magic circle, putting the hex on someone. So that's where we get the word, the putting the hex on you, is because the 6-pointed star is a hex. So today we have Jews going around the world proud to show you that they've got the hex put on them. Here's the goat worship. It's called this. Incidentally, also, Saturn in the ancient language, in the ancient Phoenician language, which today we call Hebrew, but Hebrew is actually Phoenician language. It's Hebrews who speak it. So Hebrews who speak the Phoenician language, we call the language Hebrew. No, it's not Hebrew. It's a Phoenician language, but the Hebrews speak it. And in the ancient Phoenician language, Saturn is referred to in the Phoenician language. Saturn is spelled Shabbath. Shabbath in the Phoenician language is Saturn. And from Shabbath we get Sabbath. So therefore the Hebrew Sabbath is the worship of the goat god connected to the planet Saturn. And that's why the Hebrews have their holy days or Sabbath on sundown Friday night to sundown Saturday night, because that's Saturn, or Saturn's day, or Saturday. This is why you have the worship of Shabbat or the Sabbath. So remember to keep holy the Sabbath, which is actually saying, remember to make sure you worship Saturn on Saturn's night or Saturday night. So it's all goat worship, Saturn worship, moon worship, volcano worship. Even in the Bible, in the old text, it shows a man riding the goat. Freemasonry uses the goat god, which can be traced, as I said, back to the old ancient Hindu. So, even in the tarot cards, the devil is giving the symbol of the goat god. Okay, we've looked at Moses as the leader of the ancient lunar moon cult of Sinai. We saw him as the leader of the ancient volcano cult. We saw the volcano god's son, Vulcan. He's still with us today on TV. Examine another side of Moses and his mushrooms. We're told that Moses led the children of Israel out into the wilderness, and they were given manna from heaven to live on, the manna from heaven. And so we have pictures of the children of Israel picking up manna from heaven. Now, manna is a Hebrew word, or Phoenician word, which we call Hebrew. Manna is a word which means, what is that? Because the word manna simply means, what is it? So whatever it was they were picking up off the ground, they don't know what it is, but you can eat it. So in the Bible it says manna means, what is it? Well, first of all, it was small, it was round, flaky, white, hard, and it actually came from heaven. Obviously it came from heaven. So what is a small, round, white thing? They're picking up small, round, white thing on the earth to eat. Well, you go back to Exodus again, and again it says, and when this is when the first time we hear about the manna from heaven is in the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, Exodus 16, 14. And it says, and when the dew that lay on the ground in the morning, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there was lay a small round thing. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, for they did not know what it was. And so Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. So we see on the right-hand side, it is manna, meaning what is it? Well, whatever it is small, round, is on the ground after the dew in the morning. And they would go out and pick up these little small round things. Well, once you start getting into the words and talking with the rabbis at Solomon Wiesenthal's Center for Holocaust Studies and Rabbi Antelman and all the other the authorities that I've sat and talked with for hours, it finally dawns on you what they're doing is they're picking up mushrooms. These are old drawings from the Middle Ages. The dew had gone up in the morning and small round things, white, were being picked up. They're picking up mushrooms. And as I said, a small round white thing. So they're eating mushrooms. The small round thing in the morning. What is that? Here it is. The sacred mushroom, key to the door of eternity. The search for the secret plant of the ancients, used to send the mind to another world and into the future, by Andrei Puharich. Andrei Puharich was an incredible man. Had done a lot of research on ancient religions and mushrooms. And, as I said, even down on the bottom, the Hindus were into mushrooms. Immortal soma. Soma is another word for mushroom. The history of the magic mushroom is known the world over. It was called the food of the gods. Many, many books on this subject, a lot of them written by religious philosophers and teachers, showing that the mushrooms were what the ancient Israelites were on. They were on mushrooms. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what it says. Small round thing you pick up in the morning, and it was obviously from heaven, because you could talk to God. Well, hell, of course you could talk to God. So here's Moses was high on drugs. Israel researchers. Yeah, but this is in a Jewish newspaper, in the newspaper and in magazine articles in Israel. They're talking a lot about this now in Israel, about how Moses was nothing more than on mushrooms. Here's another newspaper, and it shows Moses from the Hebrew University. Moses was tripping on Mount Sinai. Yeah, I didn't write this. This is from Israel. And here's another one, talking about Moses on mushrooms. Moses was not the only one on mushrooms. Adam and Eve also beat him to it. So the catacombs in France and in the ancient churches were pictures of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and you will see it's Adam and Eve are at a mushroom. This is what the Christians have no idea in the world, that Adam and Eve were always pictured with mushrooms. A Christian fresco showing Amanita muscara as the tree of God and the evil in the Garden of Eden. There's Adam and Eve at the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the mushroom. Here it is in a church, same thing. Here's a reproduction, another painting of it. So you'll find these pictures all over in Christendom in Europe, showing Adam and Eve eating from a mushroom. There's the Amanita muscara behind Adam and Eve. There's a prophet over there on the left-hand side. That one guy's hanging by his feet from a mushroom, so he's probably had enough. And there's the Lord Jesus on the right. Yeah, so mushrooms. Well, that was that was in the ancient Old Testament times. But what about today? Well, let's look at the Christian church today. There are a lot of books out there, like The Holy Mushroom, Evidence of Mushrooms in the Judeo-Christian System, The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross by John Allegro. The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross by John Allegro is a study of the nature and origins of Christianity within the fertility cults of the ancient Near East. Fertility cult. Here is a beautiful painting, but the top ones shows Jesus with mushrooms beneath him, presiding over mushrooms, feeding the apostles mushrooms. And it's interesting because in Matthew 26:26 in the New Testament, it says, while they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take, eat, this is my body." But the word body, take, eat, and this is the Last Supper. Take, eat, for this represents my body. The very word body is the word soma. Soma means the body. And so if you look in the Bible dictionaries, look up body in the Bible dictionary, it will say soma, mushroom. So much for Jesus giving his body. No, it's the body of the mushroom. You'll see the mushroom around the head. There's the Amanita muscara, Jesus dying on the mushroom. So Christmas is Jesus' birthday, so naturally the symbols will match. So in Christmas, you have mushroom heads, Santa Claus on a mushroom, mushroom trinkets, all kinds of Christmas decorations dealing with mushrooms. Yeah, and the reef is filled with mushrooms. Most people don't know, why do you have a reef, a Christmas wreath on your door? A wreath was always a symbol of someone dying. It's because the son dies. God's son is dead, so they have a Christmas wreath. That's a whole nother subject when I get into astrotheology. That's a whole day's subject of breaking down the story of the New Testament for the first time, explaining what the New Testament was actually saying. When you find out the symbolism and the words and the terms of the New Testament and what the story really was, it was called astrotheology. It's an encoded story. So the story of Jesus is an encoded story. And we hear about Bible codes all the time. But there's another code which most people have no idea about, and that's the story of Jesus in the New Testament is an encoded story. And so once you have for the first time see what the symbols mean, what the words meant, then you begin to understand what the story is all about. It's a symbolic story, and most people have no idea of what they're looking at. And so they're taking the New Testament as historical fact, when in point of fact, the New Testament is a metaphor. It's a symbolic story. And if you don't know the symbols, you're never going to figure out what the symbolic story that's encoded in it. Very interesting stuff when you get into the real story of Jesus. Again, mushrooms are always in the Middle East and even in Europe, always connected to the mushroom. Santa Claus, the mushroom. Incidentally, too, Santa, S-A-N-T-A, S-A-N-T-A, you can interpose the A and the T and it becomes Satan, S-A-N, S-A-T-A-N. So in conclusion, we see that Moses and the manna from heaven that the Hebrews are picking was mushrooms. And with this knowledge, we can see the logic of the headdress. All the high priests in the Middle East, their headdress was always a mushroom. Mushroom heads. Yeah. Today, I mean, is that a mushroom, the upside down mushroom? Now here's a mushroom head. Here's a bunch of mushrooms. That one chump on the left looked like he's been on it for a while. So, time to say goodbye to the mushroom heads. So, you know, Judaism is connected to mushrooms. So much for the law of Moses. I guess that's it for that one. The reason I'm dealing with this subject in public is because it has become apparent to me that this is an idea whose time has come to tell the people the truth. Because there's a world of difference between religion and spirituality. And what the world is now heading into politically, the chaos which is coming, and it's coming quickly now, people are beginning to awaken all over the world to the fact that they don't have the truth. And they've been lied to by their government and by their religions. And I started talking about this subject of the Knights Templars, the Illuminati, secret societies, the Bible codes, all of this stuff back in 1960. I think it was 60 and 61 I was doing my first mom and pop lectures at the little libraries and bookstores. And I would go around all over Los Angeles giving lectures on secret societies, astrotheology, occultism in religion, government, conspiracies. Like I said, and I used to go to some of the studios late at night. I could get a pass to get in. Some of the guys that were working at the studio would get me a pass to get in at night. And I would go to some of the studios at night and give slide presentations on Bible codes, the Illuminati and Knights Templars and international banking. And that was back in the 60s. And then I got into the really dark stuff, Nazism, communism, fascism, and was doing lectures all around Los Angeles in the late 60s, early 70s. And today, of course, the subject is now worldwide. Now it's all over the world, and they're making movies like Da Vinci Code and National Treasure and God knows all this other stuff. But this is the subject I was talking about as far back as 1960. And I'm telling you that today, people are finally awakening to the fact that we've been lied to by banks, by government. The police department isn't what you think it is. Nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. And we can talk about that later. So my point is that I have the highest of respect for spirituality and for God, so to speak. I have the highest of reverence and spiritual integrity. I have a very high respect for the divine in nature and in the divine in the universe. I totally believe in God, so to speak, whatever God is. God is simply a word, dog spelled backwards. But whatever it is, but and this is why you have church dogma. But whatever is in fact out there is extraordinarily powerful, extraordinarily brilliant, and profound in its presence in the universe. And we humans have not even begun to scrape the surface of what's out there. As one astronomer said, the universe is not only stranger than you imagine, it's stranger than you can imagine. So I want to express this so you understand. I have the highest of respect for what we have commonly called God. I am totally convinced that there is a higher force in the universe, a matrix of power that is far, far more brilliant and powerful than anything we have ever contemplated. But I think it's an idea whose time has come to explain to people that your religions are based on the old Masonic orders coming out of the Middle East, the Knights Templars. The people we call the international bankers were actually Knights Templars and the Knights of Malta, coming out of the Catholic Church, coming into Europe and ultimately into America. And so I have no respect for religion whatsoever. I think it's fascinating to watch how people will believe things and not do any research and find out where these belief systems have come from. This is why Christians are referred to as believers. You know, if you go to a new church, they'll ask you, how long have you been a believer? Believer? I want to know something, for God's sake. You don't need to believe. Go get a book and read and study and find out what it is that you are believing. Because when you find out that, and I think it's important because the Christians have the idea, and it's also expressed in Judaism and in Islam, that when you die, you're going to go before God and you're going to be judged. Well, if that's true, then I would suggest all Christians and Jews and Muslims should begin to start thinking seriously about what you're going to say when on the other side, when you die. If you're going to go before God as a judge, if that's what's going to happen, then you have better start thinking deeply about what you're going to say when you're made to look like an ass in front of everybody. Because when you find out that everything you believed was a bunch of bull, it was all man-made stuff given to you by the Knights Templars and all the secret societies of Freemasonry coming out of Europe, and the church was nothing more than a Masonic order financed and promoted by the old Roman aristocracy of Rome, and that the entire superstructure of Western civilization is commerce, money, banking, and it has nothing to do with God, nothing to do with spirituality. Moses was into mushrooms and volcanoes. So I'm just saying we need to wake up and start doing some research on what is life. Where did we come from? What is God? Because if we don't, the whole human race is going to be raped. We are seeing it today. We are nothing more than a human resource. That's all we are. And we need to wake up and take back our spirituality, and you're never going to do it if you're hanging around in churches and synagogues and mosques. That's not where the truth is. The truth is like they said on television, the truth's out there. So I want you to understand, I am not criticizing spirituality of God. I'm criticizing corporate religions. I think I've had enough of it. Thank you. Now I have a second presentation, but it's only 6. So I think we could take a bit of a break, and then I'll really scare you with the next one. Thank you. Where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. This is a very big subject, and I could talk for hours on, and some of you out here in the audience already know the subject better than I do. I'm talking about maritime admiralty law. We talked about Moses being the lawgiver, and we see that so much of the Old Testament, and as I said, the New Testament too, is symbolic, and there's all kinds of stuff in the Bible that people don't know, and so it takes many years of research and study to find all of this stuff. But today in America, since 9/11, we're living under a total totalitarian dictatorship. As far as I am concerned, if you were, and this is just my opinion, but if you were to take all of the evil and all the badness in the world that there is around the globe, the wars, the bloodshed, the hypocrisy, the lies, or the drugs, the drug trafficking, wars, all of it. If you take your time and takes a few years and go back and start studying where all this stuff has come from, it will lead you back to the Catholic Church. Because you have to remember that for 2,700 years, Rome has dominated Europe. Under the old Roman Empire, the Caesars were God, and they dominated Europe. And Europe dominated the world. Europe dominated the whole planet, and Caesar dominated Europe. And when the Roman Empire collapsed, it continued without let up, but now it was no longer called the Roman Empire, it was called the Roman Universal Religion, or the Roman Catholic, because Catholic simply means universal. This is why I found out many years ago, Universal Studios, the land was owned by the Catholic Church. That's why it's called Universal, because Catholic is Latin, universal. So, I believe that the Catholic Church, my mother was Catholic, my whole family were Catholic, all of my family were Catholic. My poor mother, who's gone, my father, and my family were all Catholic. So I'm not criticizing the Catholic people. I'm talking about a corporation that was been in power for like 1,600 years. The Vatican has dominated Europe, and for 1,600 years, Europe has dominated the world. And so if you take the time to do the research, you will find that all of the stuff that's going on the earth today, all roads lead to Rome. The underworld, drug trafficking, meddling cartels out of South America, Central America, the drug cartels, Mexico and Central and South America are Catholic. So you better look at the church and find out what's really going on in Rome and who the Pope really is. And Pope comes from a Latin word, papa. Pope is papa. And papa is a door, because your papa was the door to life. So that's why you call him Papa. Papa is also Pope, comes from Papa. But so Papa is a door, but you can't open a door without a hinge. So in Latin, a hinge is called a cardinal. And so it's like a cardinal point on a map, a cardinal point on the zodiac. Cardinal is a hinge. And so the cardinals are the hinges for Papa to open the door to the Babylonian mysteries of Dagon to the world. So the Catholic Church is opening the doors, the Pope is opening the doors to the Babylonian mysteries of Dagon. And when you find out what Rome really is and how it is a continuation of the Roman Empire, and that Caesar, under the ancient Roman system, Caesar was called Pontifex Maximus, or the great bridge builder. Well, today, that is the term that is given now to the Pope, Pontifex Maximus, the great bridge builder. Bridge builder being because he builds bridges to other nations. Takes over this country, that country, takes over here, and so he's building bridges to the whole world. The bridge builder, Pontifex Maximus, the Holy Father. And let me tell you one thing for damn sure, there is nothing holy in Rome. There ain't never been nothing holy in Rome. We're talking about Caesar. We're talking about pure power, the power of the sword. And so there's nothing holy in Rome. There ain't never been nothing holy in Israel, ever. And there's nothing holy in Salt Lake City. There's nothing holy in any of these holy cities. The very word holy comes from holly. And as I've said so many times, the old Druids, who today, the Druids still run America. America's a Druidic country. Europe is a Druidic establishment. And then the old Druids of Europe, but even before the Roman Empire ever existed in Europe, Europe was run by a religious priesthood called the Druids. And so much of Druidism is in the Catholic Church, and Judaism is filled with Druidism. One of the most important symbols in the Druid religion, as I've said so many times, one of the most important Druidic symbols in that ancient priesthood was a magic wand, like Merlin the magician with his magic wand, or the orchestra leader. When he walks out before the orchestra, everyone's going to play to his tune. He's the master. Watch the magic wand. He calls the shots. So the magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of Hollywood. Okay? And so once you understand that Hollywood is a Druidic white man's establishment for distributing magic and power around the world, and that's what Hollywood does. It's a magical system that takes your mind and puts it somewhere else and leads you through propaganda. And Hollywood has been telling us stuff for years that people have no idea in the world what's going on. Hollywood's telling you stories, but you're not listening.